Well, I mean, the story of Umar Farrokh Zahor, who plays a large role in this story, starts more than 10 years ago with my colleague who's been reporting on him for years. So my colleague Rolf, he actually did a story on the Ameri deal some years back that I imagine a lot of people in Ghana know. And so he's been following the business of both the Sheikh and Umar. And back this spring, there was a short article in a Ghanaian newspaper about the deal for the 3.4 million vaccines with the health department. And we just, by looking at that, we knew that there probably was some involvement by Umar Farrokh Zahor again. So that's what started it for us this time.
So the interest was in Umar Farrokh Zahor.
Well, yes, as a Norwegian journalist, he has a central role in a lot of our reporting, since he is still accused of having a role in one of the largest bank frauds in Norwegian history. So that is sort of where our interest was piqued. Yes.
And in that, you seem to, because when I was reading through the story, I realized that what you uncovered was not limited to Ghana.
That's right.
This goes beyond Ghana. You mentioned a few other countries.
Yes, I mean, when we started out looking at it, I think we found 3 or 4 countries where there had either been sales or attempted sales. Since we published our first story, we've uncovered several new countries that have also either bought vaccines or or at least where they've tried to sell vaccines. So I think now we've confirmed at least 8 countries around the world.
8 countries around the world who are all buying the Sputnik V vaccines from, or attempting to buy from.
We have confirmed sales in Ghana and Guyana in South America, Kenya, Pakistan, and Lebanon. And then we have attempted sales in Iraq, Indonesia, and South Africa.
Attempted sales, which means they tried but it didn't work.
Well, it means that either they attempted to sell through some intermediaries, or that we have found offering documents like price lists, for example, in Iraq. But we don't know whether or not there's been a sale there. And for example, in Indonesia, the same company that operates out of the Emirates is described as an exclusive seller to the country, but we haven't been able to confirm whether or not there's been a purchase yet.
In the countries, for example, in Ghana's case, I realize that the only reference you make is to some 16,000 that has been supplied.
Yes.
On first contact. Since that, yeah. I'm guessing, have you made it? Has there been any subsequent follow-up supplies that you have notice of?
No, and from in recent news report, this has been referenced to as 20,000 doses in the recent newspaper report. It was referenced by the government presentation that it was 16,000 doses. So whether or not it's 16 or 20, there's been varying reports, but no, there's only been that one initial delivery when the Sheikh visited in March. He brought those doses with him. It would be easy to assume that it was some sort of proof of concept that he wanted to show that he could get his hands on these vaccines.
So 16,000 doses, because I was just going through your story and then I realized that even that, there are questions with what the Sheikh says he has supplied and he's actually taking money for. But there are a couple of people you talk about, but let me also ask some questions with regards to Ghana and the other countries. Is there any other country which they have been able to supply something close to 1 million? Because we wanted 3.5. Did they seem capable of
3.4 initially, and then it was reduced to 300,000 something. But no, there's been delay all across the board. We know that Guyana has had delays. Kenya, they actually canceled their deal after they realized they were dealing with through an intermediary and not buying direct. Lebanon has only received some 80,000 doses of a delivery of an order of about 1 million doses. So there's something causing major delays all across the board. The intermediaries haven't been willing to respond to us. We don't know exactly what's causing the delays, but we know there are problems with Sputnik deliveries across the world. For example, you have Argentina, where there was also problems with deliveries. That didn't go through these middlemen in the Middle East, but it went through a German company, and there's been similar problems there. And we also know that what it seems to be is that the Russians have overpromised on delivery capability. And they've also run into some of the same problems that we had with the AstraZeneca vaccines, because some of the production facilities for Sputnik V was in India, which of course suffered through the tremendous lockdown and spikes in COVID that came this spring in India, which shut most of the or large part of the countries down.
Oh, so Ghana is not unique. Were you surprised when you heard that the health minister announcing that they've decided that they will cancel the contract? That's in the case of Kenya. But in Kenya's case, you said Kenya itself canceled the contract when they realized they were dealing with intermediaries, unlike in our case.
Sorry, could you repeat?
I wanted some emphasis on the Kenya issue. You said Kenya canceled the contract by themselves.
Yeah, in Kenya there were some small doses that arrived, but then when they realized they were dealing with true intermediaries and not buying direct, I think they basically revoked the right to sell it, or the clearance that the vaccine had received. Yeah.
What you have heard in our case, where they have indicated that they are unable to meet the contract obligations and so have decided to cancel, I'm guessing that does not surprise you.
Well, that's hard to say, but I mean, from the correspondence that's been put out by the health ministry, where we've also seen some copies of letters from the Sheikh, it seemed that the delays caused an opportunity to cancel a contract. Yes, that was already receiving some negative pushback from the public opinion, I would say.
I also wanted to find out when you put together this story, and it was very comprehensive work. How many places did you have to go to put this together?
Well, due to the pandemic, we tried to travel as little as possible, but we went to Ghana, and in several other countries, we've basically been working with journalists from those countries, like trying to cooperate with local journalists, which we did in Ghana as well.
I'm guessing what you heard about what was happening in Ghana, did it take you aback in any way?
You mean like, what was I surprised to know that
yes.
The Sheikh was back in Ghana doing another deal?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think at least my colleague who covered the Ameri deal and the amount of political uproar the Ameri deal, the Ameri energy deal caused in Ghana, I think he was surprised to see that there were almost no public debate or very little being written about the same Sheikh now being back making another deal. I'm not sure if people made a connection, or if the initial deal even made enough headlines to make people realize that this was the same main man who made a very controversial energy deal only a few years back in Ghana. Yeah.
And I think you provide an answer when you say that perhaps a lot of people did not know the details behind this particular. But did you think it was going to take this dimension when you put together the story? That you have a whole uproar in Ghana that has led to demands for the resignation of the health minister, and it seems the public is taking on the government over this. Was this what you expected?
It's very hard to know what to expect from these kind of, when you publish a story. Sometimes no one barely notices, and sometimes it causes a reaction like this. So I wouldn't say that I was surprised or not surprised. It's always, I mean, I live with the reality that what we sometimes feel are our most important stories, no one notices, and when we write something we thought wouldn't get any exposure, it sort of blows up. But I would at least say that I'm glad that it's been taken seriously by both the public in Ghana, and it seems like it's been taken seriously by the Parliament of Ghana, and that they did this that they sat down with this committee to actually investigate and bring further light to what happened here. I think that's a positive development.
Let me go back to what you uncovered and what you're finding subsequently. Is there anything? Are you still following up on what is happening in Ghana between the beyond what you reported, the dealings between the Sheikh and Ghana? Because we are now seeing correspondence that's confirming that some payments have been made. Is this something you are following actively?
Yes, and of course that's one of the interesting things that we put forth in the now published report of the Parliament ad hoc committee that investigated this. Because initially there was the claim that no payment had been made, that there hadn't been no money had exchanged hands, and then even though it might be a controversial or even not beneficial deal for Ghana considering the steep price, there was the argument that there was no financial risk here because no payment had been made. And we of course know that that wasn't correct, but luckily it looks like the government has been able to get a refund for the payment that was made in advance.
I want to get into the story a little bit. It looks like a lot of the people who you're saying the vaccine was secured by Steven Seagal, goes through a certain Hansen, there's Umar Farouk involved, and then it comes to the Sheikh. But you also said that all of them have denied any involvement at all.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, we can't positively determine that it happened the way this Norwegian businessman Per Morten Hansen describes. What we basically have is an audio recording of him assigning a role to himself, explaining how he was involved in the deal, how Steven Seagal was involved in the deal, and how his Russian connection helped him secure approximately 5 million doses. And this is done in an audio recording of him with another third party at a point where no details about this deal was public. So, which is an important fact. But it should also be noted that today he denies any involvement in this deal, and so does Steven Seagal.
Has he sued? Because you said in your story he was threatening to sue.
Yeah, no, he has not sued.
He has not?
No, he has not.
Is this a story that you completely stand by, every detail of it?
Yes. But then it is important to note that in terms of the involvement of Seagal and Per Morten Hansen, we cannot do more than describe the facts that we've uncovered. That Per Morten Hansen in one conversation assigns a role to himself. He admits some involvement in this, and later he denies it. And that is the extent that we can prove. We cannot positively say he was involved. We can only confirm that he claimed himself to have been involved at one point, at a point where no details about this deal was public.
At a certain
so those are like the... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Please conclude then. I can answer the question.
No, I would just say that those are the nuances of writing such a story. That there are things there that are still points of contention where there is no definitive answers with it, but where we have presented the facts that we've been able to uncover.
I was also going to read to you a quote from the finance minister of Ghana, because that's also important to what you've put together, and you even admit in a portion of the story the difficulties that countries in Africa are facing with getting the vaccines, even though people in the West have more than enough. This is a quote from him. He says, the people, the middlemen, have said they can't supply the vaccines, which means that they have broken the contracts, and then we get our $2 million back, and then we move on. But to be so unsympathetic to somebody who felt that what can he do to ensure that there's continuity for Ghanaians, and now sit comfortably to chastise him without empathizing with him. I am empathetic of him, and I expect others will also realize the type of pressure that he was under at the time, and his commitment to ensuring that Ghanaians are safe. Do you also appreciate, from even your story, that perhaps it was a difficult time for a health minister of a country like Ghana.
And I think that's a central core of our story. I mean, what we uncovered was basically a side effect from a larger problem, like a symptom of a greater illness. This market for third party, sort of a gray market for reselling of vaccines at higher prices, it never would have been an issue in the first place if there was equitable and fairly distribution of vaccines worldwide. There would have been no need for these kind of deals. And I think the finance minister, Kenneth Oriata, he was quoted at a similar point in our original story as well, that this whole situation is caused by an unfair distribution worldwide where Ghana, but also Africa as a whole as a continent, is still at a vaccination rate below 2%. While we, for example, here in Norway, we are at 60%. We've just been told this morning that we are getting another extra 1 million doses of Moderna vaccines, which will mean that we will reach a satisfactory level of vaccination come next month. Whereas other countries, less fortunate countries around the world, likely will expect to stand in this pandemic situation for the better part of next year.
But then, in response to this, your story also then talk about perhaps, because they were talking about an emergency situation that they needed to resolve. A few points that your story raises. Which red flags, what are the red flags that your story raises that also raises serious questions about what the health minister was doing?
You mean in regards to that the country, that Ghana found itself in an emergency?
Yes, because if it is an emergency, perhaps he can deal with middlemen. But yes, where did he get it wrong?
You mean where did the middleman get it from?
No, the health minister got it wrong.
Oh, the health minister, yeah. So we've described some of that in some follow-up stories that basically, I think the health minister of Ghana, he also made an interview with The Economist, the British newspaper, a while back, where he basically talked about how he was besieged by these kind of middlemen claiming they could support vaccines. So this has been going on at quite a large scale. I think the finance minister referenced them as a lot of them being like snake oil salesmen. That in a crisis like these, people pop up all over the place claiming they can supply. And I mean, it wouldn't be fair to be skeptical of most of them.
So at least he could have done was to be very skeptical. But the finance minister then goes to say, and I guess this goes back to your point. I got a number of interviews by a lot of European media outlets. And I asked them, you sit there and ask me why I am paying more for vaccines when you are hoarding those vaccines. And I have 1 out of 100 people being vaccinated, whereas you have 80 over 100. And then you sit there and ask me, why are you doing this? He's essentially asking about your moral rights as journalists in the West to raise the questions we are raising. How do you respond?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. And I mean, my job as a journalist is to ask these kind of questions, but I think it put it upon me to also ask the same kind of question to the international leaders responsible for the vaccine distribution that we've seen. So we did an interview with the development minister of Norway, who sits on the task committee for the international vaccine distribution. I mean, part of what is known as the COVAX program, but the umbrella organization of that. And he acknowledged that the situation in Ghana never would have arisen if there was equitable distribution of vaccines to begin with. So he sort of, I would say that he sort of, he saw that this is not if there is fault or if there is blame here, it cannot only be with the government of Ghana. There is a systemic problem here, according to him.
Well, clearly from your story, the government needs to share a significant part of the blame.
Well, I think when writing a story is this, we try not to assign blame, not to assign like loaded words, but we describe the actors, the people who play a role in the story. And of course, they played a role in the story. The health ministry signed this deal. They received these middlemen. And And then we write about that and we ask them questions about that, and I think that is only fair. But I think it was also a point for us to raise a broader issue here and show that there is an underlying root cause here which can't be explained just by the decision of the government of Ghana, but which has to do with the international system that are in place or perhaps are not in place when it comes to vaccine distribution in a pandemic like this.
All right. So, are you done with the story now that you've heard that Ghana is getting some refunds from the Sheikh and the contract is cancelled? Is that it?
No, we are still reporting on this story. As I mentioned, we've uncovered some new countries that have also sold or been attempted to sold vaccines. We've done that with the help of the Moscow Times, a Russian newspaper as well. And right now we are trying to understand more of these role of these middlemen companies in the Middle East, because even though this Umar Farrokh Sahor and this Sheikh Ahmed Al Mukal Maktoum were the sales agent of these vaccine deals, we have not been able to confirm whether or not they are the actual the actual middleman or just sales agent of them, because there's this company in the Emirates which is listed as the exclusive distributor and sales agent. So we're trying to get to the bottom of that, and we are also trying to get to the bottom of how did this middleman deal with the Russians came about in the first place. Why is the Russian investment fund allowing people to operate as middlemen for their vaccines?